Hey, welcome back. In this lesson, what we're going to take a look at is the third part of Maya's narrative. Now, this is really important because if we can get an understanding of why when we get out to time and space, identify with the body, we are completely unaware of where we've come from and all the setup in the unconscious mind, then we can start to also appreciate why so very few of us actually question the whole setup to start with. Okay, so where we left off in the last part of the narrative is we had the dreamer down here in the third split. And remember that he was completely shaking in his boots because he perceived that there was this angry father, Yama, who was after him for the attack the dreamer, who's now, we can call him the son, for the attack the son made on him first. So remember that this Yama is completely made up part of his own mind that Maya has made up to give the son, the dreamer, the sense of innocence. So remember, that's what it's all about for Maya, is to be able to give the dreamer a sense of individuality, but also his sense of innocence. Because if the dreamer has an experience of too much guilt, he is going to want to find a way out of it because his natural state is innocence, and he's always going to be driving and going on the direction of trying to get back that innocence. So in a sense that Maya has set it up that he does feel innocence, and therefore he's not going to question anything within Maya's system now because he's got somebody else who has taken the responsibility for the sin and the guilt over that, which was the destruction of the reality. But remember, all of this is on in Maya's mind, that nothing actually happened because Satchidananda, the true father, who the dreamer is in reality, has never changed and can't change. So all of this is just, as we mentioned, a narrative within Maya's mind to keep the dreamer caught in her net. Because as we know that if the dreamer gets back up to the place of power and chooses against Maya for Shiva, then all of this kind of dream reality will just dissolve and the dreamer will reawaken to who he is in reality. Okay, so what we have now is we have the dreamer ready to be completely annihilated by his made-up father. And that's when Maya comes in again and goes, well, you know what? I have this get-out-of-free jail card. So all you have to do is take my hand and we can completely leave this whole setup and get so far away from, your angry father that he'll never be able to find you. So of course this is going to be an attractive proposition for the dreamer now. Because he has no other voice, remember, because Shiva, the other voice of reason, who's just saying that this is all just a dream, wake up, is so far out of his awareness by this stage because of the veils that have already been put over the dreamer's mind, that he has no alternative option except to either stay and be completely annihilated or to leave and escape the punishment. Because in this state, it is a setup of a kill or be killed. But the problem is because what has happened to be innocent, that the dreamer has been made so small, he can't kill because he is so vulnerable and so weak. So the only option for him at this stage is to be killed. Hence his willingness to leave this whole situation. And that's what Maya offers him. So the dreamer goes to Maya, yes, I will. I want all those things you offered me at the start, the sense of individuality, of having, no cost to that. And that's what you're offering me now to get away from this kind of situation I found myself in. Of course, I want to take this get out of free jail card. Let's go. So what happens now is this, we're going to go back through denial and projection. So all of this unconscious mind is going to be denied. It's going to be repressed. And what's going to happen is the dreamer is going to be projected out of the mind into a world of time and space as a body. So we could think about this as in the cinema setup, that we have the film, and we could imagine that at this stage the character, or the the dreamer is on that film. And in that film, obviously, we have this Yama who's after him. But once she turns on the light, he gets thrown out of this kind of film and onto the screen in the theatre. So we could think about that as projection, that now the dreamer will experience himself not inward in the projector, but completely outward on the screen, even though he's never really going to leave where he is. But that's just a nice analogy to think about this process of projection, that it seems to take us away from a place and put us somewhere else, when in reality it's just kind of smoke and mirrors, that the film hasn't actually gone anywhere. It's just through the dynamic of projection that appears to be somewhere else on the screen. Okay, so what we also have here is this process of fragmentation, because here we've only got two characters. We've only got the angry father and the innocent son, and that's all there is. But as we know, when we get out to time and space, we've got trillions of different kind of fragments that seem to move around as the images on the screen. So that's also the process of fragmentation. And the idea there is, well, the more numbers there are, safety in numbers essentially, that the more that there are, then the less chance that this angry father is going to catch up with the dreamer. So we could also think about that there is only one dreamer as well, but after this point where Maya projects and fragments this whole, essentially only a couple of thoughts out onto the screen, then we could think about the actual one dreamer fragmenting and essentially seeing the dream from all these different angles. But there's only one dreamer behind the whole thing anyway, that it's just seeing the whole kind of dream from different angles now. But the one behind every one of those images is the same dreamer. But through the smoke and mirrors of Maya, that it appears that each one is their own individual on the screen. Okay, so that's what we've got now, is Maya has completely projected this whole dynamic out and fragmented it into trillions of pieces. And now we have the fourth red line, the fourth split that's gone over the dreamer's mind. So remember, this is obviously, Maya is a genius in a sense of what she's been able to do. She's been able to get the dreamer so far away from the point of power that now the dreamer doesn't even know that he is a mind. He has now been transformed into a body. So at this point now he's become associated with a body, and we can call that he's become an ego. So an ego is just a sense of individuality which is united with a form, and obviously in humans that form is the human body. So from now on he's also going to be having the base thought, which is I, such as I am a man. So all his conversations now are going to be predicated on I. So whenever we think about that first word I, it's always a sense of individuality, a thing that stands apart from kind of the Sat, Chit and Underness. Okay, so what she also has, so she has the dreamer in one of these bodies, but she also has, billions of other bodies running around, and also the whole kind of time and space, the world as well, which is obviously the scene in which all of the dynamics of the individual plays out, that he can go out and live within this reality. So there's going to be, and we're going to talk a lot about how Maya is able to keep the dreamers when he's associated with the body as an ego, how she's then able to give him coping mechanisms to deal with this unconscious guilt, which is always going to be coming down through into the ego's mind, because that's at the very base of it. But she's going to give him coping mechanisms to be able to deal with it, so that the dreamer thinks that he can actually get rid of it whilst staying within Maya's mind, within Maya's dream. So that's what the future lessons. There's going to be a lot of lessons around that dynamic, because if we can see all these ways and all these tricks that Maya is giving us when we're identified as the ego, to be able to recapture our innocence, but never actually been able to do so, then her game is up, and we can actually leave her system and go home, so to speak, back to the place we never left, and the state that we never changed. But for now, the key thing to remember is that from now on, as the ego associated with the body, we're going to have again this sense of innocence, because the body is going to appear to be made by other bodies before it even was born. So from the very start, it set up this state of being innocence, that none of this was a choice at the very start, that all of this was a choice of these other bodies playing around. And also what she's also done at this stage is she's been able to give the dreamer his power back to actually win. Because remember, at this point, the dreamer had no power because he could only get killed because he's been so small. But when he's down here, what Maya has done is she has created another at his same level. Now there is going to be this sense that the dreamer, the ego, can actually win by playing games with others who are at the same level, not at this, that are not massively bigger than him, as Yama is, so that now he can have this sense of actually winning within Maya's game, where beforehand he had no chance to win. So that in psychology is known as displacement. So we could say that that's when we can't work something out with somebody because it's too heavily outweighed in their favor, that we'll displace it onto something else so that we can work it out in a way that we feel like we can cope with it. And we could say that that's what Maya has done through this process of projection and fragmentation. When the dreamer gets down as an ego, that he can work out all of these dynamics and still win this sense of innocence within the dream of guilt. So yeah, just moving forward, I just encourage you to start questioning things that are happening around you, and just start asking why, essentially. Because as I mentioned, when the dreamer comes out into Maya's dream, then part of her strategy of her oppression and denial is to just take away all questioning ability from that dreamer associated with the ego, that he just goes along blindly with what's ever presented with him in front of him, and there's never any kind of sense of questioning what's actually happening here. So that could just be a nice way to start breaking into a few of the veils that Maya has put over the mind, and to start questioning why is this or why is that, and that starts a process of obviously waking up the dreamer within the ego. So as always, feel free to keep the conversation going down below, and I'll see you in the next video.